The last person hugged me at exactly 9:47 p.m. I remember the time because when the door closed behind her, the sound echoed through the house, and then nothing. No laughter, no music, no voices drifting in from the kitchen, just silence. A silence so loud, it almost felt alive. I stood there holding a half-empty glass of champagne, staring at the door, waiting for someone to walk back in and say, "Oh, I forgot my purse," or "one last photo." But no one came back. That was the moment it hit me. After 43 years of working, I had nowhere to be tomorrow. The retirement party was beautiful. Honestly, it was more than I deserved. There were golden balloons tied neatly across the conference hall, spelling out, "Congratulations, Daniel." My co-workers had gathered photos from my early days, back when my hair was thick and dark, and my ambition even thicker. Someone made a slideshow. There I was at 29, shaking hands after closing my first major deal. There I was at 41, holding the Employee of the Year plaque like it was an Olympic medal. There I was at 58, training the young hires who now ran departments. People clapped. Some even teared up. My boss gave a speech that sounded suspiciously like a eulogy. Daniel isn't just leaving a position, he's leaving a legacy. A legacy. Funny word, because legacies sound permanent. But walking out of that building, I had never felt more temporary. Do you know what's strange? Praise feels wonderful until it's the final chapter. All night, people said things like, "We don't know what we'll do without you." But I wanted to ask, will you even remember me next month? Work has a quiet way of convincing you that you matter. Emails fill your mornings, meetings fill your afternoons, deadlines fill your thoughts at night. For decades, people needed me. Then suddenly, they didn't. Not because I failed, but because my time was up. And companies, no matter how kind, move forward. They always do. When I got home, my wife had already gone to bed. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "You must be exhausted. Big day." Big day. Yes, big ending. I loosened my tie slowly, like I was unwrapping a version of myself. I placed my retirement plaque on the kitchen counter. It made a heavier sound than I expected. That plaque represented 43 years, and yet it looked so small sitting there alone. I walked into the living room and sat down, still wearing my suit, still wearing the smile I forgot to take off. And that's when it arrived, the silence. Not peaceful silence, not the kind you enjoy on a Sunday morning. No. This silence asked a question I wasn't prepared to answer. Who are you without your work? For most of my life, if someone asked who I was, I had an answer ready in 2 seconds. I'm Daniel Harper, Senior Operations Director. Strong, clear, respected. But now, was I just Daniel? It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? To spend 4 decades building a title, only to feel lost without it. But here is something no one tells you about retirement. You don't just lose a job. You lose a version of yourself. The version people called for, relied on, introduced with pride. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., 43 years trained my body well. For a few beautiful seconds, I forgot. Then it came back. No commute, no packed schedule, no urgent messages, just time, endless time. I made coffee and sat by the window. Outside, the world rushed exactly as it always had. Cars sped past. People hurried to work. A young man jogged by while checking his watch. Everyone had somewhere important to be, except me. And for the first time in my adult life, that didn't feel like freedom. It felt like being left behind. I kept glancing at my phone. expecting it to light up. Maybe someone forgot to ask me something. Maybe there was a crisis only I could solve. Maybe I still mattered. But the phone stayed dark. By noon, I realized something uncomfortable. The machine worked perfectly without me. That was the deal all along. You give a company your years, and in return, it gives you structure. But once the exchange ends, so does the dependence. It isn't cruel, it's just business. Still, no one prepares your heart for that truth. Around 2 p.m., I walked past a dusty shelf and noticed something strange. My old guitar. I used to love playing. When I was 27, I swore I'd never stop. Then came promotions, mortgage payments, school fees, responsibilities. I'll play again when life slows down, I used to say. Life did slow down. 40 years later, I picked it up. My fingers stumbled across the strings like strangers meeting for the first time, and a thought hit me harder than expected. How many parts of myself had I postponed into disappearance? Here is the trade no one talks about. We sacrifice pieces of our lives, believing we can reclaim them later. Later, when the kids grow up. Later, when the pressure drops. Later, when we retire. But later has a secret. It arrives quietly, and sometimes it arrives too late. That evening, I sat across from my wife. We had dinner without rushing, no emails interrupting, no calendar alerts. It should have felt luxurious. Instead, I noticed something painful. We were searching for conversation, not because we didn't love each other, but because for decades, work had taken the largest share of my attention. Love survives neglect, but connection requires presence, and presence is expensive when ambition is in control. 3 nights after retirement, I opened my laptop out of habit. My company email had been deactivated, access denied. Such cold words, access denied. In that moment, 43 years collapsed into a login error. I closed the screen slowly, and for the first time since the party, I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just the quiet kind of crying that asks, did I spend my life wisely? A week later, my granddaughter called. Grandpa, can you come to my school play? It's at 11 a.m. 11. On a weekday. Old me would have said, I'll try. New me said, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I sat in the second row. She spotted me immediately. Her face lit up like sunrise, and in that instant, something inside me softened. All those years I thought being needed meant boardrooms and deadlines. But here was a small human, thrilled just because I showed up. No title required, no achievements listed, just presence. That day, I learned something profound. Importance isn't always loud. Sometimes, it looks like a child searching the crowd for you. We spend so much of life chasing significance that we overlook where it quietly lives. Not in applause, not in plaques, but in moments. Tiny, glowing moments. The silence didn't disappear overnight, but it changed. At first it felt like abandonment. Now it feels like space. Space to notice things. Morning light spilling across the floor. Birdsong. I never paused long enough to hear. Conversations that aren't squeezed between obligations. Silence stopped being my enemy when I stopped running from it. If you are still working, listen carefully. One day, you will attend meetings for the last time, reply to your final email, finish your final commute, and when that day comes, your worth must not retire with your job. Build a life that knows who you are without your title. Protect your friendships, nurture your health, show up for your family. Don't postpone joy. Success is a wonderful chapter, but it is not the whole book. I wish someone had pulled me aside at 40 and said, "Daniel, don't wait until retirement to start living. Work hard, be proud. But remember, your life is happening while you're busy building it. Take the trip, play the guitar, go to the school play, call your friends. Because the cruelest myth we believe is this, that life will begin later. No, this is it. Right now. Sometimes I think back to that night, standing in the quiet house, terrified of the silence. But if I could visit that version of myself now, I would place a hand on his shoulder and say, "Don't be afraid. This isn't the end of usefulness. It's the beginning of freedom. Because after the noise fades, you finally hear what matters. And if your retirement party ever ends and everyone leaves and silence fills the room, don't panic. Listen closely. It might just be life, inviting you to begin again. If you're still chasing success, just make sure you're not accidentally running past your life.